Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're attending from today. Now, before we kick off our webinar, we just want to do a quick sound check to make sure you can hear us, and see our slides. So if you can just drop a line in our question chat box, that would be great, just so we know we're coming through loud and clear. Awesome. Okay, great. Looks like we're all good on the tech front. So thank you for joining us for this WSI Digital Marketing webinar. Our topic today is common social media mistakes every business should avoid. Now, before we officially kick things off, I just want to go through a couple of housekeeping items. So just to answer some quick questions out of the gate, yes, this webinar is being recorded. And we will share the recording with all attendees and even any registrants that aren't able to make it with after the webinar. So stay tuned for that. Equally, we get a lot of questions about whether we'll share the slides or not. And yes, you will get a PDF copy of the slides after as well. So if you want to wait and get all the notes and take your notes from there, you can do that too when you listen back to the recording. Now, we are doing a Q&A session as always with our webinars. We do this at the end of the actual presentation, so stay tuned for that. The purpose of this webinar is to be about 30 minutes worth of presentations and then 10 to 15 minutes worth of questions. So feel free to type in your questions as you listen to our presenter talk today, and we will tackle those at the end. And if you happen to experience any drop in audio, because as we know, technology sometimes doesn't work in our favor, just make sure that you toggle in between your computer and phone options. Sometimes that can just reset things. You can always reconnect, or you can switch to the phone option as well if you're having issues with the computer audio. Okay, so just a quick info on WSI before we get started as well. So in case you haven't heard of WSI or haven't come in contact or worked with us before, WSI has been around for 25 years, and we've been providing full-fledged digital marketing solutions for close to over 100,000 clients in those 25 years. And so we really understand the complexities that digital marketing can bring to businesses, whether you're just starting out or whether you're an existing business that has been leveraging digital for a while. It can be a complex landscape to navigate. And so we're really here to help you manage that. It's why we're doing webinars like this with businesses, to just kind of make sure you're getting educated on the latest best practices around digital. Now, the topic today we're really excited about is around social media. And we know this topic can be kind of broad and cover a lot of different things. And there's a number of different webinars that we could cover in just this topic alone. But today we just want to focus in on these common low-hanging fruit things that we see businesses and errors that businesses are making on social media. They're the obvious ones, things that you think are very plain and simple and everyone should be implementing, but they don't. They are being done repeatedly. And so we want to make sure you understand what those are. And Raquel, our presenter, is going to definitely walk you through those, not only what the mistakes are, but how you can avoid and correct these. So we're super excited to have Raquel join us today. Now, I'd like to introduce Raquel because she has some really great experience in this field. Raquel is the head of the Customer Success Department and Strategic Partners at Promo Republic. And she has been with Promo Republic since they first started, taking them from just this powerful content generation machine to a full-fledged social media platform. And Promo Republic, for those that don't know, is actually a strategic partner of WSI. And we partnered with them to help brands and businesses effectively manage their social media strategies. This is anywhere from content creation as well as just content management and social management. And so we really are excited to have her join us. Even prior to Promo Republic, Raquel spent years working in software as a service, SaaS-based businesses, and even had a stint working with the US federal government. So she has this really eclectic background that will really lend her to sharing a lot of best practices as it relates to social media across various businesses and industries. So without further ado, Raquel, I'm passing it over to you.
Hi, thank you so much, Cheryl. Hello, everybody. I'm first and foremost want to make sure you can hear me. So today on the agenda, like Charles said, it's all about social media and the common mistakes that I've seen in my tenure in the industry. And social media, there's so many components of this, especially so many facets that we can dive into from platform to platform. So today we're going to keep it a bit general overall with some easy things that you individually can do to get started. So we're going to start off today with how consumers are using social media throughout their buying journey. Who knew, when social was created years ago that we would be literally buying through it, or that it would be influencing how we buy today. Then we will dive over to the social media mistakes that we're seeing and how to avoid them, because we want you to be stars on social. And if you're making these mistakes, don't fret. We also have the tips and tricks to improve. Then also how to create and plan a content calendar or a content plan that's really reflective of the different types of social media posts that you should be putting in there with the right mix. Then why the strategy that you have on social now is more important than before. So those are all of the different pillars we'll be covering. And at the end, like Cheryl said, we'll have some question and answers, a session for you. So please don't hesitate to throw some questions in the question and answer box. So the next slide, please. So addressing the first pillar, how has consumer behavior changed since lockdown? Obviously, we know that that was an abrupt stop to the globe as it was, and businesses have had repercussions of every single industry, of every single type since. And it was perhaps the quickest digitization of all types of industries. And some businesses have returned to their usual way of operating before lockdown. But the really interesting part of this is that consumer behavior hasn't returned to where it was before. Despite the openings of some economies around the world, about half of the people say they're going to avoid public places and continue shopping online because they've already gotten used to it. If you recall, it takes about 21 or so days to build a habit. And for those of us that were in lockdown for well over 21 days, that habit is formed. So this means you really need to invest in your online presence to ensure you're connected with your potential customers that are out there. And you can see this in practice as well. A lot of clothing retailers, even though they are open and you're allowed to go in with certain safety precautions, you are maybe not allowed to try clothes on. So people have really shifted to the ease of buying online because you're able to test, try out, and send back if it's not what you're looking for. So it's really interesting that just because you're open, that does not mean the consumers are physically going to come into a brick and mortar. So online is where we need to shift, and how to do that easily is through social media. Next slide, please. Perfect. So then we also have to think about that customer journey and the buying journey. So at least 50% of customers are searching for local businesses on social media. I, for one, am very guilty of doing this. Almost everything I shop for, eat for, or do, I search their Instagram first to see what it's like. And then you have to also factor in mobile search leading to an in-store purchase. The first thing customers do is search. And you know that whether that is through Google, whether that is through social. But what's really important that I don't think enough of stores or employees or whatever it may be realize is that social media search is right behind Google in terms of usage for local business search. Half of Americans are already using social media to find brands. So 78% of these are making an in-store purchase. So this is really important to have a robust social media platform or profile, or at least a minimum of one, whether that's your Facebook page or Instagram or whatever may be best suited for the industry you're in. It's really important you have that there, because without that, you're really being left behind and your customers are online and on social. So this means that you need to be as well. And it's also really important that social media this really influences buying decisions. If the communications that you're having on social as a consumer leaves you, feeling positive, that consumers are more likely to make a purchase and a repeat purchase. And you can see this within loyalty by just following your pages, engaging on the pages of the brands that you love. And social media is now the place where people search for reviews as well. So they trust these reviews because it knows it comes from users just like them. So this is really important to factor in. Not only are you going to be posting consistently and having posts be reflective of your branding, which we'll obviously get into later in today's presentation, but it's also about engaging with your users and replying to them. I have a personal anecdote of this. I want to buy a specific type of jacket, and I found that it was completely sold out because we're heading into the winter season. So I wrote DM'd a direct message of brands on Instagram, and they replied, "Our new season, comes out soon, hold tight." So what am I going to do now? Obviously obsessively check their social pages so I know exactly when to buy this jacket. So this is really the power of social. I'm seeing it visually, and not just me, the collective consumers are seeing things visually there and taking these steps, as you saw, by having a positive experience and then having that in-store purchase, or by trusting reviews and seeing what people like me are thinking of the brands. So now let's dive into mistakes. Now that we understand really the importance of social media and what that looks like, let's focus on the mistakes and how to avoid them. So the first thing that we're seeing really impacting businesses is the fact that their pages on social are not searchable and they're missing a lot of key information. So the first mistake is really all about not being searchable and how to avoid that. We need to see that your address is there, that your physical location, directions. This may seem really self-explanatory, but maybe you've overlooked this because you think, oh, like anyone can find me, just Google it. But that's what social is now. If you remember, Google is the first search term, then you have social as the second. So on the next slide, I'll show you all about the different examples of what not to do, because you'll see that maybe they're missing contact info, no phone number, no native buttons in the apps. So it's really important to start branding across your social. So if you go to the next slide, we can see two examples of what not to do. So here we have two examples within the left-hand side is in the home remodeling industry and the right-hand side is in fitness. So we tried to give a well-rounded example, but really showing you that everything is really missing from here. So you have nothing. How am I supposed to contact them, find them? I can send them a message, but there's no address, phone number, directions, the map's not there. So as a potential consumer, I don't have really any next place to go other than to message them. So it's really important that when you're creating your Facebook business page in this instance, that you're really paying attention to all of the fields that it asks you to create when you're setting up your page, because they're all there for a reason. This is how people will find you and how they can navigate autonomously to get to you. Because remember, you want to give them all the information so that way they don't have to contact so often. So that's the solution. Make it searchable. Remember to update your contact info, have that address. If there's a quick way or a shortcut to get to you, or something funky about your address, maybe your cross street has your address here, but your entrance is on the side street, definitely put that all in there. Make it almost like impossible not to learn every single thing about you on this page. And what's really cool specifically with the new Facebook and Instagram features, they have really stepped up in terms of being there for businesses with new features during the past 6 months. So they have new buy now buttons that are native to the specific platforms. You can upload your entire cart there if you want to have an in-app buying experience. So really explore your industry and see how Facebook's native tools, whether that's on Facebook or Instagram, can really help you help your customers by providing them all information that you could ever want. And then you can see a really great example of what this looks like in practice. So this is one interactive health clinic where everything I could ever want to know about this health clinic is there. I see it on the map. I have their address. I know their store hours, which are, as we know, really important because store hours are fluctuating nowadays. So if they're updated there, I know exactly when I can stop in and get checked. And then not only is there a website, an email, the phone number, so now I can contact them, but there's also additional information about their About Me. So this is a really great example of how to make it searchable. And then just to give you another example, we have some workplace options. So again, these are just simply following the native fields that are in the Facebook business page. Again, we have a map, the address, a way to contact them, hours, phone number, and so on. This may seem, again, a little bit redundant, really easy to do, but you'd be surprised, as we saw by our first two mistake examples, on how to really make your page stand out and searchable, because that is really the point of this, how to make you stand out and be visible to those that are really looking for you. So now let's move on to mistake number 2. So this is a really tough one because we do get a lot of businesses coming to us and really asking, okay, but you know, how do I post? What do I post? What kind of content is this? So I think the mistake number 2 is all about posting irrelevant or poor content. So I think now you always have to start with your safety statements or safety regulations and precautions, what you're doing in your business to ensure the safety of others, whether that is a brick and mortar or whether that's online or anything that they need to know about anything that has changed in the past 6 months. Definitely share that. If they're not posting regularly, that is a mistake. You know, we want to, in an ideal world, see you posting a minimum of 1 time per week, or sorry, 1 time per day, not per week, per day. So it's really important because if you're not in the feed regularly, then you're not going to be beating that Facebook algorithm and constantly being coming up in the cycle of your users or customers. So having regular posting is a really important step that not enough businesses are taking. And then if they are posting maybe regularly, maybe their content is generic and is not really engaging the audience. So this is really important because yes, you do want to post regularly, but you want to post quality content that's all about you, your brand, and what you mean within your community. So we'll address how to do this in a moment. But then the last is avoiding something that's really not relevant for you. If you're just sharing a meme that doesn't have anything to do with you, or a video, or different content formats that may be just great for the feed and the algorithm, but not great for your business overall, I think that is something to really keep in mind, because I've seen some interesting stories about videos and polls being shared, but it has nothing to do with this type of business at the end of the day. So let's definitely keep in mind, and we can see an example of the mistakes in the next slide. So here, this might not seem like a mistake when you first look at it, because you can see it's Flywheel Coaching sharing their leadership for remote teams. But if you're just passing this in your feed, you know, the attention span has actually decreased in the past like 10 years from something about 20 seconds to now about less than 8 seconds. So you have, or sorry, 0.8. So you have that split second of time to really capture attention. And if you have an entire essay written here, you're gonna have someone read maybe the first sentence and then get fatigued. So too much text, not enough segmentation. If I am gonna have a robust paragraph about this article, make sure to segment it in really easy to digest paragraphs. So that's really important. And then a generic image. So you can share a link on social, but put your own image in the post itself. So that way it's your personal touch and you're still sharing your expertise about whatever that topic is that you do have to share, but it totally transforms this image from being something that you'll easily scroll through and pass by in your feed to something that's really engaging and piquing your curiosity. And in the next example, we have almost the converse of that, right? So here it's just unstructured text, no visuals at all, and you're getting some really low engagement here, only about 6 shares and barely making 25 likes here. So this is something that's really easy to change, right? It's exactly what we just spoke about, where you're putting a visual that matters to you and your business and your industry, and having text that is formatted appropriately for the type of social that you're on. So the solution is all about creating a proper content plan. So you do want, if you could actually go to the previous slide, to have a balance here. So you'll have about 40% engaging content. So on the previous slide, if we could. While we're getting the slide sorted out, I can tell you all about the different types of content. So we have 40% going to engaging content. So this is all about the questions, polls, and quotes. Then we have 30% around promotional content. So this is anything from special offers and discounts. Then educational content, which is pieces of advice, tips, and tricks. And then that 10% is curated. So it does look like we do have a slide missing here, but don't worry. When we send out the deck, we'll include that and you'll have your content plan. But if we go forward into building that posting consistency, that just follows up right about that content plan. So the first step is building out that content plan, really dividing the content into those 4 categories. And then the next is about posting consistently. As I mentioned, we want to see you in a minimum of 1 post per day if possible. And I'm not sure if you knew this, but each social media actually has what's known as a peak time to post that would yield maximum engagement and interaction from your audience. And this is due to the algorithms that each social media uses to make their feed robust. So Facebook, we want to really see the best posting times, Thursdays and Fridays between 1 and 3. And if you think about that makes sense. It's later in the week. People are maybe after lunch at work, just scrolling through because they're, first half of the week is, diligent down, you're diving in after the weekend, and then when you get to the second half of the week, we're looking forward to Friday. Things might be going a little slower, maybe. And so that's really where you have that 1 to 3 window there. Then Instagram, it's interesting again that, they're both Facebook owns Instagram, so it's the same company, but because the 2 social media platforms are so different that you have these different times. So Instagram is actually the best posting during the mornings, because this is when people are maybe on their commutes. Hopefully they're not doing this while driving, but if they're on public transit, they're sitting and scrolling and just consuming news, social, and everything from the platform. So I think it's really always interesting to highlight that, because if you're going to post a minimum of certain times, at least do it within this. And I like to highlight this is during your specific time zone. So in the next slide, we can actually see an example. Here we are, the missing slide. Sorry about that. My slides are in different order. But we do have the content plan as I highlighted to earlier. So I'll go just quickly over this again so you can see this in your in front of you. So 40% again is the biggest chunk of your content. So this is engaging content. So this is, questions, polls, and quotes. Now you may be thinking, okay, but earlier you told me not to share like polls or videos, but here you're telling me to engage with my audience. So there is a difference. So this is all about sharing content that's relevant for you, your business, and industry. So if you have questions, let's say I'm in the hair industry, right? I own a salon and I want to get started. Something I can do to engage is share a visual with a caption like, what is your biggest hair mistake? Or an open question like that. So it's something that engages your audience and prompts them to reply to you. So that's really what we're talking about in terms of context and engaging, something that leads someone who's reading this to take an action and share, maybe tag their friends. Then the 30% is all about you and your business, where you are, right? So you're posting about the what you're doing and selling. So you can see this about special offers and discounts. And then the last is all about educational content. So this is where your expertise shines. So this is you sharing your expertise, why you're the expert, why people should trust you. And this is, if we go back to that mistake, you can absolutely share an article and a link, but put your own personal spin on it and make sure it's formatted and optimized for the social media page specifically. So then if we go to the next slide, which is the examples. So here you can see how this can really relate to a proper content plan. So we have here a bright visual, something that really captures your attention, cohesive branding because you have that red aesthetic combing throughout. Then you have a catchy slogan and a clear, very clear call to action. So this is all here for you to really make that content shine and to create that end action by the user, which is to stay updated and visit. And then the next example is all about how the text can be structured properly. Because if you remember in the other example, it was either really thick paragraph or really small and didn't really drive value. So here, this is a bit of that engaging content with advice to it. So are you worried that a monster might be creeping into your room at night? And you can see the clear line breaks, the clear divisions of thought. And I know emojis are my favorite, but they're also really engaging. Social media loves emojis, and it's great because they say a picture is 1,000 words, and you can have a little picture to really convey the theme of your topic. And then you also have an interactive format with this post. So this is a really great and clean example. Then we also have another example about the proper content plan here. And this is, again, showing you what the difference between just having a huge blob of text on your screen is versus having a clean, well-structured post. You can see not only is it a lot of text, but I can read the first sentence and automatically have my interest peaked. Then you have clear bullets, and then you have the full contact information, and it is a mobile first creative because we know majority of people are searching or engaging through social media on their phones. So, and what do we mean by a mobile first creative? It's something that way, if it's on a small mobile screen, that this visual will not be cut off. And you can see that the logo is completely centered. There's no extraneous stuff in this post that might be cropped out, but here you have it be really clean. We still do have a few examples because we really wanted to show you all the different types of content that you have here. So then you have, this one's a promotional post, right? So this is highlighting the promotion of the free coffee because who doesn't want that? You have the short and structured text, easy to find link to get that promotion, and then the visual actually features the offer. So this is just a food for thought, so to speak, on promotional content. And then on the next slide, we have educational content. And as mentioned, this is all about highlighting your expertise. So here you have this well-structured text and comprehensive graphics that are really showing what this means and what you're conveying and your expertise and why people should trust you on social. And the last piece of content that we have an example of is curated content. So curated content is when you share content from like magazines or thought pieces or whatever that might be. So that is here for you. And this is a nice and short lead that really captures your attention, as well as a customized link. So those examples, there were a lot, but I definitely wanted to show you the different types of content out there. So that way, as you're sitting through this, you can start to think, okay, am I using different types of content, or am I just posting product? So that perfectly leads to the next example, or sorry, mistake rather, which is not connecting with followers. And this is a really important one, which we alluded to before. So here, we do have to underscore that social media is all about communication. This is what users expect when they come to your page, just like they want to navigate it autonomously. And going back to mistake number one and solution number one, by having all of the content really on display, this is where you can do that. But the second part of that is this engagement. Remember, people are more likely to buy in person or take a positive step on your brand after a positive experience on social. So this is where you should spend a little bit of time taking care of answering the direct messages as soon as possible. If you answer to about 90% of the messages or more during 15 minutes, you'll get a very positive response and a badge by Facebook itself. That's where you see, usually replies quickly on a Facebook business page. And this will positively influence the impression that people have on you and your brands when they're visiting your business page. And just on that same vein, it's also really important to reply to posts or questions that people leave on your page, as well as reviews. And this can be everything to if someone is asking about prices, recommendations, delivery details. It should be really easy for people to buy from you, to schedule an appointment with you, or just to have their questions answered. So it's important for you to be, again, responsive and proactive in that nature. And then what's really important is the reviews part. You can always ask your clients to leave reviews on your page, but don't push. We want this to be organic because we want this to be sincere. So just tell them, they would appreciate if they left a review on your page. So here we have an example of not connecting with followers. You see that here they're not replying at all. So everything is not liked, there's no comments, there's nothing underneath it. So how would someone have a positive experience after this? It's kind of hard to do that. And in the next example, you can see that as well, where there's just no recommendations, no rating. And especially if you're a business starting out, get people to rate you and to review you, because this is the psychology of social, right? If you're staying a place with no recommendations or no reviews, are you going to use it, or would you rather spend some time searching for someone that has the 4-star, 5-star reviews like you're used to seeing? So I think that is really important to keep in mind, and it's really easy to do so. That's the thing. You can do this. We know that social media. You're not a marketer. Social media is not what you're passionate about maybe, or what you're wanting to spend your entire time on, but just a little goes a long way here. So it's important to respond to the comments, to direct messages, answering reviews, thanking people that are leaving positive reviews, but also if someone happens to leave a negative review, that is almost, your answer to that is almost more important than if someone leaves a positive review, because someone who comes to your page sees a negative review, we want to see how you're handling that and what your customer service is like. So please keep that in mind as you're responding and as your business is growing, because you will have these ebbs and flows on social. So always make sure to connect with your followers. And we have some examples of this dialogue happening where you have positive answers and personalization. So you can see here, Blackmore's announced an event update. So the first thing is, again, this really compelling image, important event update, very clear. But in terms of connecting with followers, on the left-hand side, you see that they have users say inevitable, that something was canceled. And then you have them replying and even mentioning the customer or the user by name in their reply. And you can see each one is different, signed off by their employee. So it just really makes you feel like you're being taken care of as a brand and leaving you with a positive experience at the end of the day. And in the next slide, we do have another one where it's a nice and detailed response to a really short question. And the question is, what is it? Right? And then this example really goes into detail in just a few paragraphs that it's a flavored coffee from Scooters. And then they even show, for this blend, we specifically light roast our coffee with the best beans to make it toasty with hazelnut, spicy sweet cinnamon, and a touch of clove. So it's just a few sentences and you really feel enticed and want to. You're visualizing how they described it. So really great job by their marketing team on this. So then the last thing to keep in mind about mistakes on social is not using analytics. The thing about social is there's so much within the platform and happening that it's kind of tough to stay on top of it. You can't really build a social media strategy unless you're using the analytics tools. So if you don't track what you're doing, if you're not seeing the reach and engagement, how are you going to know if your content is effective for you as a business? Because you don't know what performs better or what to post in the next month or how to develop your content plan further, depending on what works or doesn't work for you overall. So overall, paid performance metrics are really great to follow because this shows whether you're moving in the right direction long term. And I know you can see this tangibly by if your followers are growing or whether you're getting a lot of likes and engagement on your post. So if you ignore these metrics, you're really missing what's happening. And it's important to, as it says here, keep an eye on this, track your reach, check what's performing best, and use your post performance to guide future content on social. And in the next screenshot, we do have WSI Social, which is, as Cheryl mentioned, our partner tool together, where you can see in just a matter of seconds the positive engagement that you're having and in layman's terms, how to solve that. So it's really easy through whether it's tools natively in Instagram and in Facebook, or whether you use a third-party provider to work with you on social to get this analysis and really build on this as you're moving forward. So in the next slide, we have a great checklist to really summarize what we have covered today. And this is all about, number one, have a strategy on social media. Then make your page searchable, post regularly, make sure your content types are diverse and you're using different formats. And then to answer questions, comments, reviews, and to finally check your page statistics and bring it full circle. So that's it for me. Thank you so much, and I'll turn it back to Cheryl.
Awesome. Thanks, Raquel, for that great presentation. We have a lot of questions coming through. But just before we do, I mean, just to make sure that you guys know that we covered a lot here. If you have any questions, make sure you are reaching out to either your local WSI consultant or contact us at contact@WSI World, and we can point you in the direction of one of our consultants in your local area just to talk through some of the things that were discussed or to even amplify what you're currently doing on social and digital. So Q&A, just to kind of start off, I know you went, the mistakes you went over today is kind of what we call the low-hanging fruit. So these are the obvious things you need to do to just kind of get your profile and your social presence kind of up to snuff. But what are maybe one, maybe even two, like some of the advanced things that you think people could do beyond this once they've got these key things in place?
Really great question. So just like you said, these are really easy things that anyone can do on their own. I think just dovetailing off of this is branding, to make sure that your visuals are in line, that the colors are right, that if you have a company logo, you're posting things that aesthetically match. So I think we'll keep that in line with this. But once you've really mastered the basics of social, there's really two ways that you can step up your game, so to speak. The first is exploring more of the native tools within each social media. Because each platform is so diverse, there's a lot of tools that work for your benefit as a business that most don't take advantage of. Like you can, if you are an e-commerce business, you can upload your entire inventory into both Facebook and Instagram and have that full shop experience. And similarly, let's say on Pinterest or so on, there's a lot of different features that you can turn on and off to really benefit you as a business. And then that second layer on top of that is advertising. Advertising we didn't touch upon today because, as you mentioned, it is a more advanced feature within social media, but it is a really robust tool that enables businesses to really target their right user demographic at the end of the day. So I would definitely recommend to anyone who's ready and has mastered this to see if ads are right for them, or to, as you mentioned, reach out to a consultant who can help them with that.
Awesome. And I know at the beginning of the presentation, you shared some stats just on usage and how it's impacting consumer behavior. And we had a question come in just saying, you know, how is this differencing between age groups? And do you have any, you know, indication on, you know, how maybe millennials versus Gen X or versus baby boomers are kind of leveraging and how that might differ a little bit?
Really great question. So what's great to see across the board in terms of online statistics and trends toward digital trends overall is every age group since that mid-March date has really shifted to digital. You have people that were never, you know, maybe grocery shopping online, that were grocery shopping online now that just switched their full inventory to Amazon and buying from there, or even clothing and so on. So this trend is actually visible across all age groups. But with that being said, one thing that's really important to underscore is each age demographic actually has a social media that they tend to use most. I would say over 35 range tends to stick with Facebook and Pinterest. Then you have I would say like 20 to 30 range, which is active maybe both on Facebook, but predominantly on Instagram. And then you do have the younger age group, which is sub 20, which is, as I'm sure you've heard of, TikTok and Snapchat, all these new socials that they're really actively on. So I think that first step to understanding where to invest your time is to understand who are you selling to, like what age are the people that you're buying, what type of social media are they active on, and then really build your content plan from there. And even though we didn't really cover TikTok, Pinterest, and let's say Twitter or Snapchat today, all of these have the ability to have businesses on there, and they each have different, as I mentioned, in-app features for businesses overall. So I would recommend taking some time and learning about that for your own business.
For sure. And I mean, even when you're B2B, then you've got LinkedIn that kind of comes in
Yep.
there as well as a big social platform. And a lot of this is part of like just, you know, identifying your key customers, your target audience, your buyer personas, and kind of where they're digesting their information as well. So
Yes.
just a couple more questions. I mean, we've got a lot in here, but someone brought up a good point. So we were obviously talking about making sure you have your location on your profile and that sort of stuff. Now, with things locking down, a lot of people ended up, you know, going to either self-employment, work from home, that sort of stuff, and they have maybe a more personal address that's their home-based address. What are the recommendations there? Because for someone that might be apprehensive on actually blasting out their home address versus like, you know, their company or an office location.
Really important point. I would say rule of thumb, never post your personal address on social media. I think that is a really, really good question. So if you are, let's say, online and you don't want to post your personal address, one recommendation that I've seen quite a bit is PO boxes for, like, let's say that the small businesses that are maybe running predominantly on Etsy, or you have your own e-commerce site that you're just doing everything from home. A PO box is your friend because it enables you to have that maybe on your website. On social, you can also just say that you are online. That's not a problem. And on, like I said, different socials require different types of information for you, where you can just leave city and state so they know maybe where you are. But you absolutely, by no means, do have to post your personal address. That's a really great and really important question.
Great. And I'm just gonna, I know we've got a minute or so left, but I want to just maybe finish off with two more questions. And so
Absolutely.
we'll just run over a little bit over time. Hopefully that's okay. But someone asked a good question, was just around, we obviously highlighted some optimal posting times, and the posting times were during the week. What about posting on the weekends? What's the recommendation there? And should that be part of your posting schedule?
Really great. So the week is, I would say, where you would want to invest most of your time, because that is where most people are pretty ritualistic, right? They are commuting, working, lunch break, work, home, surf the net at night. Whereas on the weekends, this is where most people have their free time. They're out doing activities. So yes, you can of course post to social media on the weekends, but it just really depends. For example, Sunday nights in the Pacific time zone is actually a dead time to be posting on social because the rest of the world is already sleeping. So if you have people that are active on Sunday nights, you might not be getting as maximum engagement as you want. Where conversely, maybe if you're on the East Coast, you post Sunday night, then you have everyone across the US still active behind you. So it really depends. And Saturdays, you can post, but you're not really going to get that maximum engagement that you would do on a Monday. So I've seen a lot of brands, have posts that go out then, but they still are getting much lower engagement than they would during the week. And I've had some companies that actually save their posts. If they take a really great picture over the weekend and capturing activity, they might save it for later in the week. And I think that ties back to building a content calendar, is that if you're planning ahead, you can capture content that's really relevant and work it into your schedule. You don't always have to take a picture and post it immediately. It's about planning ahead and really posting at these optimal times. And there you can just really easily Google best posting times for Instagram for California and get that there. So I'd always check with your time zone.
Awesome. And I know we're just a little bit over time, so thanks for sticking on. We do have some questions I know in the chat that are very specific to business related stuff. And so I would very much suggest that if you have a very specific question to your business, the performance of your social campaigns, even the branding and how you go about branding your social pages and whatnot. If you have any unanswered questions, reach out to your WSI consultant or contact us at contact.wsiworld.com so we can answer those questions for you afterwards. But I know people were also asking recording slides. Yes, just a reminder, we are going to be sending out the recording to this webinar, sharing the slides so you can go through all this information again. So just to round up, I just want to remind everyone that we talked a lot on social today, obviously, but we obviously share a lot of have a lot of knowledge on all things digital marketing, and that is represented in our third book that we've published earlier this year. So if you ever want to catch up on anything with regards to digital, check out our Digital Minds book. To close off, I just want to thank everyone for joining us. I specifically want to thank Raquel for joining us and just sharing her knowledge here today and going through all those great examples. So much just food for thought with regards to social. And before when you close out this webinar, you will be prompted with a survey. Please take time just to fill it out. It's very quick. We just want to get some feedback on the presentation, how you found it, other topics you might be looking forward to, so we can dive into those as we release more digital marketing webinars like this. So with that being said, thanks for joining us. We hope to see you next time, and I hope everyone has a great day.